Migrant families coming to Western Mass and finding temporary shelter at Westfield State University remains up in the air, but in preparation, Westfield Public Schools are getting ready in case the proposal does become reality.
Western Mass News reporter Daniel Santiago joins us live in studio after getting answers from the Westfield School Superintendent. Daniel, what is the district doing to prepare?
Well, Chris, Abby, School Superintendent Stefan Chaporowski says right now they're assessing the resources they have available. The district is looking into what they need to provide effective learning services for migrant kids and their families.
More families are seeking shelter in Massachusetts as the migrant crisis affecting the entire country continues. Here across Western Mass, the latest proposal involving housing hundreds coming into the Bay State at Lammers Hall on the campus of Westfield State University. It's an option being considered by the Healy administration that, if put into action, could impact everyone in Westfield, including public school students and staff.
With resources already stretched pretty thin around here, I think that it's just going to be an additional challenge.
Western Mass News spoke to Westfield School Superintendent Stefan Chaporowski and Christine Shea, the district's Director of Assessment and Accountability. They shared what their biggest challenges could be if migrant families arrive seeking shelter.
We build our budget in the spring, and so anything that happens after that is not necessarily budgeted for. So the one thing that I would hope is that there are some resources that are going to be offered from the state and federal government to help us support these students and families.
I think across the state, with more migrants coming, that looking for ESL teachers has been a real challenge. We've hired 2 and we've been lucky to find qualified candidates, but there is a shortage.
In the months of August and September alone, 64 children needing to learn English were enrolled in Westfield Public Schools. That's pushed this year's total to 120 students, already more than years past. The Catholic Charities Agency could be another resource for migrant kids and families in Westfield. They offer English classes and other resources to assist arriving families at any time. Catherine Buckley-Branner, the Executive Director of Catholic Charities, tells us in part, "We are positioned to provide case management to help the families acquire needed social services benefits, access to ESOL classes, acquire their employment authorization documents, and to start the TPS asylum process. Now, they wait for a decision from the governor's office. And if Westfield State is selected for a migrant shelter, Chaporowski tells Western Mass News more communication is needed, if only to plan better and help.
If you're going to put these kids here, how about you talk to the stakeholders? And that's not happening, and it's pretty frustrating. I would say that we will do our best to be ready for any student that comes, but if we had some knowledge ahead of time about what the needs are of these families, then we could prepare better.
Now, Buckley-Branner from the Catholic Charities also tells us that if migrant families arrive at Westfield State University, they're also prepared to assist them with finding more permanent housing and rental assistance. Reporting live in studio, Daniel Santiago, Western Mass News.